Ramez is our next speaker.
I too don't want to mess up my hair. I spent a lot of time on it this morning. And like Hussein, I'm very happy to be here. I didn't graduate from AUB, but my great-grandparents, both of them, great-grandfather and great-grandmother, got married shortly after graduating from what was the Syrian Protestant College at the time. And everyone else in my family since has graduated from AUB, so I'm the odd one out, so please excuse me for that, but it is a pleasure nevertheless to be here with you today. And like most consultants, we tend to hide behind these the pages that we prepare. But I won't go through all of them because there certainly isn't enough time, so I'll highlight a few things and hopefully we can get into a little bit more of the meat in the Q&A. And some of the pages that I skip over, and hopefully, Dima, you'll make these available to the participants and the attendees, because there's some interesting stuff in there that I won't really touch on. So just to kind of set understanding of what everyone means, or what is the operating definition of CSR, a couple of cases and trends, what this translates into financially for companies, and a little bit of our own view on what we're doing. So just to kind of set the stage, when we say corporate social responsibility, it at least includes these things. It could include others, but it at least is about integrating social, economic, and environmental concerns into the way businesses run and into the way the communities in which these businesses reside are impacted. And there's some operating definitions that are out there that are published that try to sort of contain the space of CSR as a core. There are many things at the periphery that could be additional to this. And it was just highlighted the use of the GRI and the like to kind of bound the thinking on this stuff. And the topic or the notion of CSR has evolved over time. We first started hearing about it in the early 50s. Some publications came out. Peter Drucker, the famous sort of management guru, started to write about it and to link economic development and societal benefit, and sort of started putting the CSR concept a little bit into focus. Ben & Jerry's, a great company in my view. If you're not familiar with them, you should absolutely visit your nearest supermarket and get familiar with them. Published their first corporate social report back in the late 80s. And then there was an inflection point very early in the 90s, and I'm not sure if many of you remember the case that happened with Nike. I'll highlight it shortly. And that sort of really kind of put CSR in the limelight, and companies really started taking note of doing something serious, concerted, integrated on a continuous and regular basis. And then this continued on into the reporting scheme that came out in the mid to late 90s. And then today, I mean, we've got world summits, all kinds of events. You had highlighted a few of them. And it's on the lips and minds of organizations, both public and private, both governmental and non-governmental, all around the world. The key inflection point, as I highlighted, was something that happened with Nike in the early 90s. Harper Magazine had featured sort of the cost or the endorsement value for Michael Jordan's Air Nikes against the Indonesian worker sort of creating the shoe in one of Nike's factories in Indonesia. And they basically found that this young man, Sadisa, had to work essentially for 10 hours a day for 44,000 years to earn what Michael Jordan received, I forget if it was a month or a year. I mean, it was just an exorbitant disparity between the least and the greatest out there. And in fact, just to earn enough money to buy the shoe out of a retail shop in the US, it was more than a month's salary. And the backlash was horrendous. The media went into a frenzy. People started, boycotting, demonstrating. I hate Nike, as the picture shows, and it was reported on in every publication under the sun. And Nike started to do something very actively to transform this image. And they put out documentaries. They put out a 6-point plan to turn things around. They started reporting on it. They got independent reporting on who they are, and they became much more active in the community. And as you saw from the timeline, things started to evolve and to change all around the globe, particularly in multinationals and their role in this space. So in that light, in that context, that understanding of CSR, we effectively see 7 key trends at play. Okay? And I've got some cases that highlight and really ground what these cases or what these trends are all about, but we probably won't have time to go into them, so I'll flash them quickly. The first is that CSR will play a key role in essential advantage. And what is essential advantage? It's about establishing and galvanizing competitive advantage for corporations by virtue of enhancing and improving their brand, their services uptake, and then internally in terms of their culture, their motivation and productivity of their workforce. CSR will pose a significant growth opportunity by entering new markets with new ways to form products and services and capabilities at different and differentiated price points. Strategic philanthropy will evolve from being highly transactional, just giving money away, into some of the examples that were given earlier, where they are measured into the impact of the organization and all the way into the performance and productivity of the individuals. Companies will incorporate CSR objectives into their strategy and their value system. We've seen 2 testimonials or heard 2 testimonials this morning where that's already happening, and the GRI plays a key role in making that happen practically and tangibly. Leadership involvement. Many times these things can happen bottom up. There's a swell up, but we see that the most successful corporate social responsibility programs are those that are driven from the top and impact every aspect of the corporate psyche. And media will play a huge role in holding people accountable, that it's not enough to talk, you've also got to walk and eat your own cooking, as the saying goes. So to kind of solidify this a little bit more, when we talk about essential advantage, I mentioned there's the motivation of the employees, there's the reinforcement of the culture, there's enhancing the service offerings and improving reputation. Your strategic positioning as an organization is summarily a function of these 4 things at the very least, and CSR plays a key role in this. And again, some of the case studies I've highlighted will touch on what this means in practical terms. One case study, or I'll flip through one. CSR will shift from being a cost center, so just giving money away, into being a source of growth, enabling companies to think about new markets, new products, new ways to innovate, and new ways to serve their communities at the same time. Strategic philanthropy, we said, moves from being the highly transactional, just giving the money away, to having it be an integrated aspect into the culture of the organization, not just deploying funds, but deploying what organizations are good at. In some cases, it's the mind. In other cases, it's the body. And then sometimes the brains and brawn work together to produce great results. In terms of business strategy, we've seen statistics. There are others here that were published by the UN and Accenture on other sort of measures on what hits the bottom line and what improves the strategic direction of the organization. When you go through this document on your own, you can see what some of these statistics are. but this one was based on nearly 770 CEOs from around the globe. In terms of an active role in reporting, we heard about the GRI and who is actively doing this. And again, there are some statistics here that you can read and better understand, but the G250 and the N100 are very active in this. And for those that don't know the N100, it's effectively the largest 100 companies in terms of revenues from 22 leading nations. So this is really starting to sort of take root in the psychology and the behavior of organizations all around. In terms of top-down decisioning and the influence that's required for it to become pervasive and lasting in organizations, again, some more statistics here that you can read about, and this was not that long ago either. I think this is a 2010 report done by Korn Ferry, a headhunting firm on the topic. So I'll just flip through many of these. And media, again, holding many of us accountable. We really saw this in the Nike case, where what you say isn't enough. It's about what you do. And regrettably, given that we have two hands and one mouth, we often don't use them in proportion. We do a lot more talking than doing. And the media is helping us keep honest in that regard. So I've got a bunch of case studies in here. This is Starbucks' I'm In campaign, which was pretty cool. Maybe Aramex would think about doing something similar. And basically, it's about a pledge card, so getting free services from the organization in exchange for contributing your own time or your own hours to doing community services. And that's been quite a success. Microsoft's got an interesting story that you can read about. I've got something on Vodafone, on GE, on Intel, lots of them. And they cover the various components that I highlighted: societal, environmental, and economic. And we've even got some stuff here from Booz. And this is just a subset on what we've done in healthcare, where AIDS and HIV have been global interests for us to help reduce and manage and triage to whatever extent that can be done. So that highlights that. In terms of the key enablers, what we think organizations really have to be able to embody to make CSR a success for them, it's really about having the right mindset. So the right top-down leadership needs to be at play. That mindset needs to infuse the culture and the behavior and the value system of the organization, and into the management style and the interaction model with employees, in the view that that interaction, that behavior emulates, permeates, and it gets extended into client relationships, customer relationships, and the like. The operating model obviously needs to change as you become more conscious of your own carbon footprint or your own environmental concerns, or the degree to which you are employing the right types of people with the right types of backgrounds and you're sensitive to their needs. That touches on the operating model. And then capabilities, it's not just the financial capabilities, it's also the technical and commercial capabilities of the organization. Impact on brand. You can look at the stats in terms of benefits. 1 minute. This is an important thing here to take a look at. That maybe you're familiar with it. If you're not, you should take a look at it. It's the KLD 400, which is effectively a social index. It takes a look at a certain subset of companies that are where CSR is of particular interest. It was designed for those people who had this social consciousness that made their way into their investment profile, and you can see that these socially responsible businesses really emulate the S&P 500, in fact, in many cases exceed it. So it is a viable activity. And we found from our own studies that CSR programs can, in fact, impact brand equity, and we have a financial model here, a financial case, where in this particular scenario it affected the bottom line by up to 13%. Eating our own cooking, this is the last page, and I'll close. It basically says, look, we do a lot of different things, but the way that we engage the community, besides what we're doing internally, is through these sorts of mechanisms: consulting, volunteering, fundraising, and certainly corporate sponsorships, but very much in the same vein of doing what we're good at to the benefit of the community, being agents of positive change. Thank you very much.